Well, welcome everyone, and thank you, Murray, for the invitation and obviously the hospitality we're being shown here today at Heritage Country Park. I'd like to thank all of you, of course, for coming, and also my colleague Bonnie Brown, Member of Parliament for Oakville. Bonnie, thank you very much for being here. Pleasure to see you. Well, before we proceed, a couple of acknowledgements. I do want to welcome you all here. It's tremendous to see so many of you. I know many people wanted to hear Dion for themselves and understand this new federal leader, what he's all about. And it's a very exciting time, of course, in our federal politics to have a man of his caliber leading a national political party. And I'm so delighted to have him here. First, a big welcome to a man who is currently presiding over the fastest growing town in Canada. In fact, if you've seen your Milton champion today, there it is. Milton's growth tops in Canada. This guy, in fact, was mayor of this place when we didn't even have a Tim Hortons. Hard to believe. Anyway, Milton is a prime example of the suburban growth that is fueling Canada's heartland. And of course, we're welcome to have Mayor Gord Krantz. Gord, stand. Now, secondly, almost everybody in this room, probably in the course of coming to this event, dealt by email or phone with one of the folks who I'm sure treated you professionally and courteously. And I'd like to say that I think that while Halton may have the dubious honor of having me as the Member of Parliament, it is blessed with having some expert riding staff. And you've all met Christine Torbett, Helen Young, and Esther Shea. And I want to thank you guys so much for the work that you did in this event. Now, here's the format of our meeting today. We want to talk a little bit about the greening of the GTA, about some ecological issues. In 2 minutes, I'm going to introduce our special guest. He'll speak for 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to open up the floor to everybody. It's an open public meeting. Those of you who are here today, you know that there was no screening, no attempt made at all. Anyone who wanted to come was welcome to come. We're all Canadian citizens. We all have a voice in our democracy, and we all matter. And that's why we're all here today. Now, I would simply ask those people who have questions or comments to make today that we keep them courteous, we keep them short, so we can move the meeting along and cover as many topics as we possibly can. We certainly have lots to discuss, for sure. We're here in the middle of this area of rampant development, and yet we're in the shadow, of course, as we can see out the window of the magnificent Niagara Escarpment, which is part of the World Biosphere Reserve. So how do we control growth? How do we deal with the demands of housing and yet Class A farmland, which is being eaten up? How do we preserve the lifestyle of those people who move to an area like this when that lifestyle seems to be jeopardized by the very development that brings them here? Is urban sprawl the worst possible environmental issue that we face, or does it just need to be managed? Is that possible to do that? How can we have efficient transportation in this area? Or is Highway 401 out there? Is that a precursor of more of what we're going to see in our area, more lanes and more cars and more pollution? How do we provide energy for all of the thousands of new homes being built here? I mean, obviously, we've all been concerned about the construction of new energy plants in this area. So how do we deal with that? And of course, greenhouse gases, our Kyoto commitments. How as a nation do we actually get to achieve having a greener country? Well, I guess the question also comes down to an election, which I think is not far away. What do people want? Do people want lower taxes? Do they want a greener country? Or is there a way of having environmental sustainability and also fiscal reform that does increase all of our value of the lives of all of us? So these are questions, I think, that are not easy to answer. They're ones that we as politicians are struggling with, and which you as voters ultimately will make a determination of whether we got it right or not. So let's now turn to a man who is at the center of these concerns, these issues, and these initiatives. Earlier today, he unveiled a climate change plan of historic significance, and a plan which I am sure he's going to outline for you briefly. His pedigree is as an environmentally active politician. He is well known as that. He also has a reputation as a bona fide Canadian nationalist, as an academic, as a successful politician, and of course, as a triumphant leader. And the fact he is here today to talk to you in an open forum, to answer all questions honestly and straight up, I think speaks volumes about the kind of leader that he is. He listens, and then he acts. And I know that from my personal experience, that this guy cherishes debate and discussion, and then he has the courage to act after he's had the respect to listen to all voices. So it is an honor to present to you the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Federal Liberal Party of Canada, my colleague, the Honourable Stéphane Dion.
So much. It's an honor for me to be with you in indeed the fastest growing city in Canada. In fact, Milton was 13,000 people in 2001 and 54,000 people in 2006. And the projection in 20 years, 125,000 people. Well, I don't know what is the explanation. But I guess part of the explanation is because we have so much attractive mayor and member of parliament. About Garth, the something I may say, I never saw a colleague, and I'm sure Bonnie will agree, a colleague who in some weeks became so much respected by his new colleagues than what Garth is for the Liberal caucus now. How many colleagues are telling me, I want to know what Garth thinks about that. So you're accustomed to that, but for us it's new. And so it's really a great help. He has a good, strong views about many, many issues, and one of them is the environment. What we are facing about the environment is a Milton at the level of the planet. We are 6 billion human beings now. Last century at the same date, we were 1.5 billion human beings. In addition to it, most of the human beings at that time didn't have an industrialization part of their life. Now, among the 6 billion, 4 billions are in the industrialized world. The other 2 billions are not living in a sustainable world at all. Since they need energy, they are cutting trees, burning woods, at a rate we cannot imagine, creating desertification everywhere. The ones that enjoy our way of life, well, let's say that all of these 6 billion human beings would have the standard of living of a Canadian and the level of consumption of an average Canadian. You would need 5 planets to make it sustainable. We have 600 cars by 1,000 inhabitants in Canada. Well, they have 10 cars by 1,000 inhabitants per 1,000 inhabitants in China. Except that every year, the Chinese people are buying more cars than all the cars you have in circulation in Canada. And they are 1.2 billion of human beings. So you imagine in which world we will be. We will be 9 billion human beings in 2050. It's going pretty fast. And it's very clear that it's not sustainable. The main sign that we are in trouble is climate change. And according to the Stern report, the former chief economist of the World Bank, if we do nothing, in a couple of decades, humanity will have lost a fifth of its wealth. So we'll have a fifth less to share for 9 billion human beings instead of 6. It will be a tremendous, a terrible mess, unless we act. And if we act, we may change a pain in a gain. Because when humanity starts to think about the problem and find solutions, we are very good. And we may find solutions that we cannot imagine today that will make our world sustainable. I think one of the conditions to succeed is that some countries will take the lead. I want Canada to be one of them. plan I released this morning will be a major step for that. This plan